I'm Ted Keys in Pasadena, California. Welcome to my Tuesday conference call, a high-powered meeting I hold live every Tuesday for top-producing freight agents. Go to tedkeysonline.com for complete call information. Then join us weekly to see serious, new, struggling, and experienced sales professionals move more freight efficiently, effectively, effortlessly, and make more money financially. So watch my Tuesday conference call highlighted there on your screen right now. Then go to tedkeysonline.com to hear more podcasts, read more blog posts, watch more videos, and visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch products to explode your business today. Enjoy watching and applying my Tuesday conference call.
Guys, welcome again to my Tuesday conference call, where every week, as I said, I show you how to move more freight and connect with more and more people. If we're going to move more freight, we've got to connect with more and more people, and to connect with more and more people, the best way to do it is to do it properly and effectively. Now, let's go to the email that I sent everybody, and let's go ahead and open that up today, entitled My Tuesday Conference Call. Today, we are going to talk about the 80-20 rule, the 80-20 rule. Now, I know I've mentioned this rule, this principle, in several calls earlier to this, but today we're actually going to take a look at it and tackle the meaning of what this means. However, I'm going to go over a few quick tips before we get to that. So, again, as I usually do, let's go to the attachments on the bottom of this call here. Again, guys, as I typically do, I send out the agent leaderboard every Tuesday. Again, of course, this hasn't changed much since October, but my goal, boy, if I had the opportunity to be on an agent leaderboard, you know that I'd be on this thing. So congratulations to you folks that are on there. Let's go ahead and click open that second attachment. Again, these little quick tips here as you're making your phone calls and connecting with the marketplace. So the second attachment reads, remember, when you're calling prospects and customers, when calling prospects with a difficult name, it's a pretty simple, how do I put it, result here, pretty simple solution here. If you have a name in front of you that is difficult to pronounce, hold on a second here, folks, that's difficult to pronounce, and you're talking to the gatekeeper or the secretary, all you have to do is say, hi, I'm looking for Ted. His last name is, what you're going to do is, when you get to the last name, start spelling it. Now, again, I've got my name as an example, but start spelling the last name. 99 out of 100 times, the gatekeeper or the secretary will end up pronouncing that name for you. Why? Because she's gotten it many, many times before. So if you're calling a gentleman and his last name is Milishevitz and it's spelled all over the place, well, all you have to do is just say, hey, I'm here to speak to John. His last name is M-I-L. Pretty much after the third letter, she'll tell you, yeah, that's Milishevitz. Let me get him for you. That's all you have to do. It's just a secretary being helpful. So, again, I'm looking for Ted. I'm looking for Bill. His last name is M-I-L. Guaranteed she will tell you who you're looking for, and she will connect you through. So that's when you're calling a prospect with a difficult name. Let's X out of there, guys, and let's move on to the third attachment that I sent you, which basically says, hold on, folks, while I just take a little swig of water here. The next attachment reads, remember, again, when calling prospects and customers, to be real. What does that mean? It basically means to be yourself. I know when you start off this profession, You're not particularly, you don't have an idea of how to do this, but if there's one thing that'll get you through when you first talk to a prospect is being yourself. When you be yourself, that means you're not nervous, just like right now. As I talk to all you folks on the call here, I'm not nervous. I'm just being myself. So be real. Be yourself. Just follow my script as I show you, as I tell you to, and over again, you will get better and better at this. So be real. It's easy to spot an insincere sales agent. Now, this goes to the other side. If you go in with a bad attitude or something like that, it's easy to spot an insincere sales agent like a skunk in your family room. They both smell terrible. How many times have we gotten on the phone after it's rang and there's a dispatcher on there with a bad attitude? Or, boy, even a better example, we call every time to dispatch a driver and your driver has a bad attitude. Well, we are not in the profession of disciplining people, but that's just part of somebody having a bad attitude. But you know what? You're going to be real. If you have to hang up on him because he's got a bad attitude, go ahead and do it. Believe me, what's he going to do? If he doesn't call you back, he's not going to get dispatched. However, let's talk about connecting with customers and prospects. Be real. Just be yourself when you pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Today, I called on a lead. It's a lead that I've not only taken loads into, but taken loads out of. Gal's name was, what was her name? I forgot her already, but she's in my email contact list. But I basically said, Tricia, I have bringing loads into your facility. I've taken loads out of your facility. I brought it in for this customer. I've taken it out for that customer. Can I get on your freight list? I mean, that's all I said. I didn't even say, do you keep your options open to adding additional carriers? I just said, can I get on your freight list? I mean, the evidence is there on what I know about this gal already. Can I get on your freight list? Yeah, send me your email. What is your, send me your contacts. What's your email? Here it is. Real simple, real easy. Just because I was real and sincere, matter of fact, not nervous. When you're that way, people will take you more seriously. Let's X out of there. Let's go ahead and click on the fourth attachment that I sent you. I just went over this document a couple calls ago, but I figured I would go over it again with you folks. Hold on. Because we're just going to talk a little bit about the telephone voicemails that you leave with people. Now, that's not the incoming message. It's number 2. It's the message to prospects and future customers. Again, it's short and simple. The only message I leave for business prospects and future customers after hearing their telephone recording, I keep leaving this message until I finally speak to them. John, hi, it's Ted Keys from Logistic Dynamics. Call me at 626-309-9141. It's 11 o'clock your time. Thanks. Real short and sweet. Now, this, to me, this recording, as I said, is short and sweet. It basically says who I am, where I'm calling from, my telephone number, the time I called, and thanks. That's all it is. Real short and sweet. But let's go ahead and click out of there. Click out of this document, guys. And let's move on to the 5th document, which I've entitled this 10 Gatekeeper and Voice Message Tips. 10 Gatekeeper and Voice Message Tips. So, hold on. These are 10 tips for you to take into account every time you leave a voice message in somebody's voicemail. But reading on, under my title there, a good voice message is like a movie trailer. It must pique curiosity, but not tell the entire story, that you still want to need and hear more. Now, when I leave a message, I leave it in a matter-of-fact type of way. I leave it to make it sound like I know this individual. John, hi. Ted Keys here with Logistic Dynamics. Real short, simple. Here's my number. Here's the time I called. That's my feeling. But there are other tips that you can go by when leaving a voice message. The first one is the first one is be honest and upright. Be honest and forthright. Just tell them who you are. Name of your company, where you're calling from, time you called. So the first one, be honest and forthright. The second one is don't repeat what the system says. Now, basically what that means is typically a system will tell your prospect what day and what time you called, okay? So don't repeat what the system says. I repeat the time, all right? But don't go on this long drunkalogue about, hi, it's Tuesday, November 11th at such and such a time. When your prospect hears your voicemail, they will hear what time you called at and what day you called. So don't repeat what the system is going to tell your prospect already. Again, I give the time, but I give it short, and I give it I'm short and sweet about it. It's 11 o'clock. Thanks. Change your greeting daily. If you're pursuing somebody and they're not picking up the phone, change your greeting daily. The fourth one, when you leave a voicemail, be specific in what you're saying. Be specific in your details. The fifth one, don't drag out your message. As I went over earlier, my response is short and sweet. It's me. I'm from here. I called at this time. Here's my callback number, and I make it sound like I know the person. So don't drag out your message. Always review your message. Review what you say. For me, it's short and sweet. I don't have to review it. I keep saying the same thing. But I've done that over time because I found out that the message I leave is what gets me the best results, if it gives me any results at all, to get somebody to call me back. So if you feel in your gut that you're not leaving a good message, review what you're saying. Use a PS in your message. I guess that goes to the description up above. It must pique curiosity but not tell the entire story. So you know what? Leave a short and simple message. P.S. I've got truckloads of freight coming into Kansas City this week if they're located in Kansas City. Something like that. P.S. Whatever you want to say. I've got truckloads coming in. Hey, I've got a truck in Kansas City looking for outbound freight. Something that, again, your prospect can relate to. And again, this is for prospects. This is not for your customers. This is for people that you are attempting to build a relationship with. Going on to the eighth one, don't mention your previous attempts. If you've called this guy 3-4 times, do not go off and say, hey, John, this is the third time I'm calling you. Don't do that. Again, act like you know the guy. Act like it's the first call that you made to this guy. Do not mention the times that you've called earlier in the voice mails that you've left there as well. Open your mouth wider. Talk like you can be understood. Slow down when you're speaking. Be specific in how you give your message. So open your mouth wider. Don't talk like this where your mouth is hardly even open. Slow down when you're speaking. So 10 gatekeeper and voice message tips when you leave a voicemail for a prospect and a prospect only. Customers, you don't do this. Customers, you've already built a relationship with. You can be a little more personable with your customers. So let's X out of there, and let's move on to document, the sixth document. Okay. So today our main topic, it's called the 80-20 rule. Now, this is a rule that, believe me, I've thought about many, many times. Can I explain the actual physics and science behind it? No, I can't, but it's a simple rule and it applies to most situations, especially it applies to most situations in life. I mean, you can think about this rule and say, wow, the 80-20 applies to that. Wow, the 80-20 applies to that. But it's called the 80-20 rule. Let me read on here. The 80-20 rule was named after the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. He observed that, here it comes, 80% of income in Italy, 80% of income in Italy was received by 20% of the Italian population. Now, that's just what he observed. He observed that 80% of income in Italy during his time, which I believe was the early part of the 20th century, 80% of income in Italy was received by 20% of the Italian population. He determined the assumption that most of the results in any situation are determined by a small number of causes. So really, what he came up with in Italy is no different than any other country, which basically means is a small percentage of the population controls the largest percent of the wealth in that particular country or district or whatever it is. So the smallest percent of the population controls the largest percent of the wealth. Now, again, he learned this in the country of Italy, but in reality, it applies, as I said, to any country or most situations. But in simple terms, for most general situations, 80% of your results, again, my results, my wife Maria's results, 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your input. All right, let me rephrase that. 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your effort. Or there are certain activities that you do, 20%, that will account for the majority of your happiness, output, or results. That is the 80-20 rule. Now, why on earth am I talking about this? Excuse me. Why am I talking about this rule? Well, as I said earlier, this rule applies to almost any situation that you can think of, because it doesn't just apply to the distribution of wealth, it applies to business. Let me give you let me be more to the point here, and that is, I can give a few examples here. 80% or 20% of the calls you make, 20% of the calls you make will render 80% of the results of those calls. But on the flip side, 80% of the calls that you make will render 20% of the results. So not only does it go one way, it flips the other way. Let me give you another example. 20% of the customers in your contact list, 20% of the customers that you have brought in, 20% of the customers that you have brought in are going to produce 80% of your results. 20% of your customers are going to produce 80% of your results. Hence, 80% of the customers in your contact list are going to produce 20% of your results. So what does that mean? I would venture to say that some of you guys that are moving a lot of freight are already letting this sink in. Wow, you're right, Ted. Most of the customers on my a small percentage of the customers on my list are producing the vast amount of the results that I'm getting out of my list. That's why this applies, because you may be wondering, I've got all these customers, but only a small percentage of them I'm actually moving loads with. Am I doing something wrong here? Well, if you're not communicating with your contact list, yeah, you're doing something wrong. You're being lazy. You're being ineffective, and that's why you're not being successful. But if you're actually connecting with your contact list, either by calling them or emailing them, you will find out that most of the results are going to come from a small percentage of your actual contacts, and a vast proportion of your contacts are going to produce a smaller percentage of your results. Now, after our call today, think about how this rule applies in other situations. It applies in most situations that you can think of, but my goal is to get you to focus on your business. Let's talk about the calls that you make. The calls that you make pertain to this rule. 20% of the calls that you make are going to produce 80% of the results from those calls, which means you're going to get a lot of results from a few calls that you make. The thing is, you're going to make a lot of calls that are going to produce a small percentage of those results. So you're thinking, well, gee, I'll just focus on the 20%. Well, you can, but here's the thing. You don't know who's going to do what. When you're making phone calls, you don't know, hey, this guy's going to be in the 80% and this guy's going to be in the 20%. You don't know that. You still got to make the calls. But here's the thing. The most important thing about this point is focus on the 20% that are actually producing results. Yes, make effort to contact those that are not, and make an attempt to bring them into the 20%. But just be aware that you're going to have a distribution of results among your contacts, among your customers. Many will produce little, little will produce much.
You've just taken a tremendous step forward by watching and applying my Tuesday conference call highlight. Do you desire to learn and earn with our top freight team and Christian-based office? Yes? We're searching for a self-starter who's serious, motivated, and ready to take action now. Is that you? Go to tedkeysonline.com/contacts and enter your contact details right now. We provide top-notch freight agent sales training to you. Then you provide those same skills with confidence to the freight industry marketplace. I'll talk to you soon.